Enumeration. Now we'll do LDAP enumeration. Now what is LDAP? LDAP is actually the protocol. It is lightweight directory access protocol. It is an internet protocol for assessing distributed directory service. Directory service may provide any organized set of records, often in a hierarchical and logical structure such as corporate email directory. A client starts an LDAP session by connecting to a directory system agent, that is DSA, on the TCP port number 389 and sends an operation request to the DSA. Information is transmitted between the client and the server using basic encoding rules. Attacker queries these LDAP services to gather information such as valid usernames, addresses, department details, etc. that can be further used to perform attacks. This LDAP uses in Microsoft Active Directory. These Microsoft's Active Directory services are designed on this LDAP protocol. So when you have Active Directory services running in Windows Server, you will see port number 389 of LDAP. And using the LDAP query, we can query the Active Directory also. We can query the Active Directory. Attacker can query the Active Directory for valid usernames, addresses and department details. And even in a Linux machines also, because this is not a proprietary protocol for Windows, so Windows, it can be configured on any other operating system, including Linux also. So in Linux also, if the administrator wants the directory style, Windows Active Directory style authentication service, directory service, then they can configure the LDAP protocol there. In the LDAP protocol, they will store the information about the users, address, departments, all the details in a hierarchical way, and also email addresses and all that. So attacker can gain the information from the LDAP server using the LDAP enumeration technique. Now for that, LDAP enumeration tools, we can use tools. So attacker can use the Softera LDAP administrator tool to query the LDAP Active Directory. So it can query the directory to get the information. It will get the detailed information about all the users. Not only this tool, we have another tools also. We have JExplorer, Active Directory Explorer, LDAP administrator tool, LDAP admin tool, Active Directory Domain Service Management Pack. Some of the tools are from Microsoft. This is given by the Microsoft to manage, for the administrators to manage the Active Directory from the centralized location. So we can use these tools to gather the information from LDAP Active Directory. Now we have Active Directory installed here. So this is Windows Active Directory server and it is having Active Directory installed, and this Active Directory also uses the same LDAP protocol style. So you can check this here under the tool. You can go to the Active Directory users and computers. You can see the hierarchical styles of structure. So this is the hierarchical way of storing the information. Like you can see here the domain name. You see the domain. Under the domain you have subcontainers, and those subcontainers have informations about the users, all users which this Active Directory has, and in built-in computers, built-in accounts, computer accounts, which is the member of the domain, then domain controllers information. So these are different containers, and these containers are under the domain, and under the containers we have different objects like users, groups and machine accounts. So to enumerate this, we can enumerate from the client machine, from the other machines, and we can use those different tools to do the enumeration. For example, I will use the graphical tool from the other machine. Now this is my Windows 10 machine. It is not the member of that domain, but I have a tool here. So I will go to, I will open that tool which I have here. Where is the tool? I am under the C directory. So I have this LDAP enumeration tool, and this is Active Directory Explorer. So this is the Active Directory Explorer. I open this one. Now asking me to provide the information. Provide the information about the Active Directory domain controller. So here we can say connect to username and password. It asking the username and password. Now without giving the username and password, Active Directory basically does not reveal anything, because this Active Directory is secure. So by using this, you have to provide at least a user account information. User account that might not be the administrator, so we can just provide any account information, so that normal account also, then it can enumerate the whole Active Directory objects. So what I will do here, I will provide the name here, connect to, this is our server, and I'm going to connect with the username John with the password of ABC. And now here you can see it is enumerated that, and what it is showing here, the hierarchical structure of the Active Directory, and this is what the LDAP protocol is style, and it is actually showing the whole partitions and partitions of the Active Directory. Basically this is the domain partition, and you can see under the domain tech.com, and in this we have these containers. This is the users container, we have built-in computers and other containers. It is showing more than the server, it is showing more than which we are showing the server. In the server we are not seeing these much containers, it is showing some extra containers. Extra containers, that means this one and these ones. These ones are extra container which is showing here, which is not showing in that domain also. It was not showing, but it was there. Actually it was not showing. These advanced options does not show automatically in Windows Active Directory. Those other containers, here we are in the Active Directory server, and in this those other containers are not showing here, because it does not show normally. We have to go to view and say show advanced features, then only it shows all the other containers also. But there when we do the query, it is showing all the containers, and here it is showing all the containers. Now under the containers you will see the objects, like I select the users, I can see all the users object here, and this was the user which I used to get this information. And when I select the user, you can see the whole information about the user, and it is very detailed information. Now this is the normal user, and this is administrator. Now I can see the information about the administrator also. So when we click the administrator account here, or double click, here it shows the all information. It is in very detailed information, like what are the account expiry, admin count, bad password time, bad password count, all this information. It is member of which groups, and object class, OID of the object, SID of the object. So it shows lots of information here. Same as this object, we can query the other objects also. We can check the TPM devices, if it is there, we can check these. Now this is the domain partition. We can go to the configuration partition also, where we can see the different services running on server. We are having different running services. We can see there is remote access services running there, mail service is running, so it will show the remote access services running there. So whatever the services running there, you can see there. You can see the sites information, how many sites are there. You can see the detail about the sites, what is the name of the site and other information, and even you can get the schema. This is schema partition. Then domain zone partition, DNS partition. So we can see lots of information there. This is graphical tool. Just like this, we have other tools also like JExplorer and others. And also we can do it from Kali machine. We have a script for that. It is called enum from Linux, enumeration for Linux. We can use that script also to do this enumeration to the server. Now on our Kali machine, we have these enumeration tool for Linux, for Windows, or to do the enumeration for LDAP also. And there is a script we have. It is called enum for Linux. Enum for Linux. -h will reveal the help, that what you can do with this script. It is a Python script, so you can use these options with this script. It is like you run this script and then you will run with the option and then IP address of the remote target server. What you can do, enum -U will get the users list, M will get you the machine list, S will get you the share list, P will get you the password policy information, G, D, U and P is for providing the simple username authentication. Now if you use A directly, then it is going to do the all simple enumeration, like all of these -U, S, G, P, R, O, N, I. All these normal enumeration which requires, it will do. Enumeration R means enumerate users via RID cycling. So it will do enumerate the Active Directory server. By using this we can do that. But also what with this tool also, it requires a local, it requires a user authentication. So even if you have a normal user account, you can do this. So I will say I want to do it for all request, and this is the server which I want to do. So -A will do the all common common scanning, like this, all of these. That means we can do it separately, or A will do all these things together. -O can also, we can put -O also, which will give you the operating system information. Let's put that one also. Now it is trying to get the information from the DC. Now what it get here, it gets the target machine IP, RID range, it gets the known users. These are the known users, that is very common to every domain. Then it find out the domain name, it is not in the work group, and these are the other information it finds about the domain, work group and all. Now it is not able to find the session for the user account. It did find the domain and its SID. Then it tried to find the OS information here, but it says the access denied. User information is also access denied. Share information it is not able to find. Expected error from this. Policy information is also not find. Protocol is saying that there is 139 SMB. Trying it failed. This one is also failed. Now why it is failing? Because it needs at least a normal user authentication. So what I will do now, I will provide the username which is normal user with its password. Now you see it is getting all the informations. Whether the user is normal user, it is not an administrator, but still it is getting lots of information. It is trying to enumerate each and every SID one by one, and it did find these users here. It is actually trying to resolve these SIDs one by one. You can see these SIDs it is trying to resolve, and here it is finding the users. It is trying every SIDs here, and I think this output is also very big. So we should do what? We should put it into some file, the output, and then we can check this output. Otherwise it is very big output because it is trying every SIDs, all the combination of SIDs. Okay. Now there is no printer. It says that there is no printer connected, and these are the SID it has tried, and it finds some SIDs like this user is on this SID with this password. Then there are some groups, administrators group, these are local groups, users group, guest group, account operator, server operator, and print operator. These are the local groups with this SID. Again, this is the same user. It is using this user's SID to enumerate these things. Then it has find here these domains, domain groups. What are the groups we have in that Active Directory domain? Then it is again finding the users there. So what users we have there is the administrator, we have default account, we have this Kerberos target TGT account, we have this John, we have Khan, we have Chris. These are the accounts we have on this Active Directory server. There are machine accounts. These are machine accounts: Win1, Win2, Win3, Win4. Server 1 is the domain controller. So these are the machine accounts we have on that server with these SIDs. These are the domain groups we have with the RID. It is also showing here domain groups here. There is remote access services are there running. The RODC password replication is also there. These are again account information. These are built-in groups actually. It is showing built-in groups. And the policy for the password, you can see the complexity is disabled. Minimum length is also not available. These policies are disabled there on the domain controller. It is a password policy. You can see the password policy is also showing here. It is getting the password policy also. Minimum password length, maximum password history, password age, minimum complexity, maximum whatever, all the history, all the password policies are it is showing. And it is showing all of these with the user account, which is normal user. Then it is showing the share folders here, and also it is showing this shares here. These are the share folders we are having there. These are the mapping of the share folder. These are user information. This is the OS information. It is server type, platform version of that OS. It is showing that. Then here getting the domain SID, session checking, it is checking the session for this user, and then it goes on to do this. Then this information was also showing previously, but the other informations were not showing because we have not provided the username. Now I have provided the username with the password. Even this user is not an administrator, but still it is showing some information. It is showing lots of information. But it requires that user's authentication, and that is why the SNMP enumeration is very better than this, because SNMP enumeration will give you the right information, and you can do it with the default community string if it is there. And normally people leave this default community string. We have the tool, very easy tool here to do the SNMP enumeration also, that is SNMP check. And if the SNMP is running on the server, so if it is there, then you can easily get the information using the SNMP. You just have to know the community string, and community string mostly are the default. And even remember, even if someone changes the community string, we can still break the community string also. If someone changes the community string, then also we can break that community string easily. Like this server, I have changed the community string default. It is not default public. I have changed it to site. So even if it is changed, we can easily break that password, and we can get the community string whatever they have changed. If they have changed it normally, if they have changed it complexly, then it is not possible to break that community string password. So you can do this by using this SNMP check version 1, define the version, and define the community string. And I am using less here because the output is going to be a very big output, and it is going to be out of the site. So I am using less command to start from the first line and go one by one line. So when you use this, it will enumerate through the SNMP, and you can see the same information without authenticating yourself. So what you see here, this is the host, IP address, name, hardware information, location and uptime also. Uptime is very important to know the uptime, because if you see the server is running for last 1 month, that means the server is having a vulnerability which comes between these days. So if suppose last 1 month the server is running, that means it is not been updated, and if it is not updated, that means it is having those vulnerabilities which comes within these days. So we can exploit those vulnerabilities, we can use those vulnerabilities to get the attack on that server. So getting uptime is also important. Then again you can see it is easily showing the usernames available on that server, and it is very true because it is itself, the server itself, saying these network information. So we can use this, and what we are seeing here, the network interface here, what are the network interfaces here. Then we can see, we can go down and we can see the detail about this script. Do what? It will find the information properly and arrange it to you. SMB get and SMB walk will not arrange information for you. This script do what? It arranges the information to you and for you, and it is using the OIDs of its own. You don't have to put the OIDs manually. It is going to put the OIDs by its own from the MIB database. And you can see these are the interfaces there we have in the server, and this information is very much right because it is coming from server itself. Network IP addresses, routing information, you can see the TCP services running. These all services are running there. These are UDP ports which is running there, which is open. These all ports are there. That is why it is taking time to scan that one. Then after the port, it is showing all the services running there. So after the port, it is showing these are the services running there. All these services are there running. These are the process which is running there. These are the storage information. It is even showing how many storage is remaining, how many memory is used, what is the total size, physical memory, virtual memory, D drive, everything. File system information it is also showing. It is showing device information, what are the device there. These are Ethernet, D drive, fixed device, IBM keyboard. So any other device is connected, it will show up here. Software components, what are the software installed there, it is showing detailed software information. These are IIS server information, because the server is installed there, server is running, so this is the server information there. Share folder information, and now it is ended. So you can see it shows lots of information. Only you have to get the community string. You don't have to get the username and password for the normal user. Even the normal user, you just have to get the community string. So if the SNMP is running, it is very easy to enumerate. Now next is NTP. NTP enumeration. NTP means network time protocol. This network time protocol is designed to synchronize the clock of networked computer. It is to synchronize the computer's time from the source, from the NTP server. So in the network, if we have lots of machines there, so we can those machines can synchronize their time from the NTP server. By default, in Active Directory environment, Windows Active Directory server is the NTP server for every machine. Or we can choose the internet source also. If you want to be very much accurate, then you can use the internet source also. There is a servers available on the internet which provides the times option. So you go to the time settings and you can change the time server. You can enable the automatic time updating. So when you enable the automatic time updating in Windows, it will update the time from Microsoft time servers. Same as in Linux also. So if you configure it to get the update from the internet time server, it will get the update from its own distribution time server or free time servers available. Now it uses the UDP port 123 as its primary means of communication, and it can achieve accuracies of 200 microseconds or better in local area network and under ideal condition. And NTP can maintain time to within 10 milliseconds, that is 1 out of 100 seconds over the public internet if you are getting the information from internet. Now attacker queries the NTP server to gather the valuable information. What information it wants? It wants the list of hosts connected to NTP server, clients' IP addresses in a network, their names and the OSS. Internal IPs can also be obtained if NTP server in the DMZ zone. So it can obtain these informations from the NTP servers, because NTP servers are providing the IP to these clients. So these clients are connected to NTP server. So if there are the clients which is connected to NTP server and taking the IP network time update from that NTP server, so by enumerating the NTP server, we can get the information about those clients' IP addresses and names. Even we can get the information for the source also, OS also. Now to do the NTP enumeration, we can use these commands. We have these command lines tools. We can use this command NTP trace, NTP DC, NTP query. We can use this command to enumerate the NTP server. Like NTP traces a chain of NTP servers back to the primary source. Now chain of servers, that means NTP servers can take the time from other servers, like our local server. Like our local server will give the time to our local machines, then our local server will take the time from internet server, and internet server will take the time from other server also. So this can be the chain of servers. So we can find that chain by using the NTP trace. NTP DC monitors operations of NTP daemon NTP D. So when you are running NTP servers, then you can monitor this by NTP DC command. Then NTP query, NTP queue, this monitors NTP daemon NTP D operations. By using these query, it can perform the NTP operation and determines the performance of the NTP server. So by using these, we can get the information from the NTP server. And also we can trace the IPs of other machines. Let's see that. First we should check that if the 123 port number UDP port 123 is running on the server, that means the server is NTP server. So by doing the nmap, by using the nmap command, we can find out this, that whether that server is having the NTP services running or not. And if you see that NTP services are running, that means if the port number 123 is running, it is open, that means it is NTP server. Then we can use the NTP query commands to get this information. Like here, okay, it is saying that UDP port is 123 is open on this server, that means it is having a NTP services running. So we can use this NTP DC with the server IP, and then you can do lots of commands here. If you give help, you can see lots of commands here. You can use this command to get the informations about that server. You can try to get system information. This is the system information it is showing. You can get the other informations like version. You can get the monitor list, mon list. It shows what are the remote addresses and what are the local addresses which is getting the IP address from the update from this NTP server. I don't have much machines here. It is showing only two links. So this server is getting the update from this IP address. So just like this, we can get some other information also from here. We can use these other commands here to get the other informations. Then we can use NTP queue. Here also we have different commands. We can get these different options, different commands here also. Like I will get read list. I am trying to get this read list command. It shows information about whose association ID, status, leap, non-sec, event. It is all the information about your time server. And you can get the other information like if state, host names. So we can get these information by using the NTP query, and this is for NTP enumeration. Now next is SMTP enumeration. SMTP is simple mail transfer protocol. This is for mail transfer. So if you are having a mail transfer server there, if the server is mail transfer, so mail transfer server, that means it's a mail server and it is having an accounts there, and these accounts are having the mail addresses. So we can enumerate these mail server to get the information about users. Now this SMTP provides three built-in commands to enumerate. Verify, VRFI, this is validates the user. EXPN, that tells the actual delivery address of aliases and mailing list. So if it is there, then it will show you the actual list, because sometimes some users has created the aliases for security, because with the help of email addresses we can find out the username. Email addresses are like the username @ domain name. So if you remove the domain name, it will be the username for that user. So normally for the mail addresses, sometimes users do create the aliases. Aliases is like the different name of the same user. So email address will be the different and username will be different. So with the EXPN command we can find the actual delivery address, actual email address. Receipt 2 defines the recipient of the message. This will define the recipient of the address. So SMTP server responds differently to VRFI and EXPN and receipt 2 commands for valid and invalid users, from which we can determine valid users and SMTP users. So it responds differently for those users. So we can define that which user is valid and which user is not valid. If the user is valid, it will show you OK, and if the user is not valid, it will not show, it will set error. So attacker can directly interact with SMTP via the internet, via the telnet prompt, and collect list of valid users on the SMTP server. So it will try to connect the SMTP server through the telnet, and it will try to get the valid users information. It will try, it will be like try and error method, and it will try every user account, those usernames which is possibly there, and if it is getting error, that means the users are not there. If the username is correct, then it will get OK option. Now for this you need mail server, so you have to connect the mail server. Now I will do it here. So doing this SMTP enumeration, we can do it from telnet. We can find out the valid users information. We can use the telnet to connect the SMTP server, and we can try to find out the information about the valid users. And we can use these commands of the telnet SMTP to verify the user, valid user. This command will verify the valid user. If it is valid, then it will show an OK. If it is not valid, it will say error. So we can do valid the users, and we can create the list of valid users. So for that, we'll connect the telnet. We connect the SMTP server by using the telnet. Now first we have to know that is the server is SMTP server or not. And by doing that, how we'll know that? By doing the port scanning. So when we do the scan for the port number 25, and if the port number 25 is there, that means it is the SMTP server. And for scanning the port, we can use sudo nmap -s, and for this server, and I'm going to enumerate for only port number 25, because I just want to know whether this server is having the port number 25 or not. And this is the server. So it is going to check that port number 25 is there or not, and port number 25 means SMTP, and if the port number 25 is there, that means SMTP is there. So we can see here that port number 25 of TCP is there, and that means the SMTP is enabled. So what we'll do now, we'll try to use the telnet. Now when we use telnet, so telnet works on port number 23. This is the port for telnet. So it will send the request on port number 23. But what I will do here, instead of sending the request on port number 23, I will use port number 25. So what Telnet do, it sends the request to port number 25. And you can see, because the SMTP server is there, it is connected now. And what we have here, trying this and connected this, and this is the escape character, and this is the server name which is having the SMTP running, which has the SMTP running, and it is showing that it is running the SMTP protocol of postfix. Now to gather the information, what we can do, we can use those SMTP commands. For example, I will use hello. It is like hello. It says that with this you need to give the host name. Now we know the host name here, so we'll give that. And the host name is rhel.example.com, and it shows now these information like available information. This is showing the size, this is the server name, this is support this command, and these commands. Now I will try to verify. So we are FY. I will try to verify that user 1 is there or not. It says this user 1 is there. I will try to verify user 3 is there or not. It is not saying any error, that means the user is there. I will try to verify user 5. User 5 is also there. What we can do here, we can check by using the mail from also. And basically what we can do here, we can even send the mail from one user to user 2. And remember, without authenticating the user also. That means we did not authenticate as user 1, we did not authenticate as user 3, but we can send the mail from user 1 to user 3 by using this telnet. So this is user 3 logs in here, and there is no mail for user 3. Now what I will do, I will send mail from user 1 to user 3, and I will send without authentication from the Kali machine where we have connected this. What I will do, I will say mail from, I want to send the mail from user 1 at rhel.example.com, and now you can see it is saying it is okay. That means this user is available there, and I am trying to send the mail from this user. And remember, I have not authenticated at this user, it is not asking any password. Then I will say recipient, the user who I want to send the mail. So I want to send the mail to user 3, and this is the mail address, and it is also okay. And okay means this user is also there, and I have not authenticated at the I have not authenticated with user 3 also. Now I will type data, and then I will type whatever the message, and it is going to be end as dot by dot. So the message will be, this mail is from telnet client for testing, then dot enter. Now it is sent. Now we can check there in that server on that user's login, user 3's login, that whether it receives the mail or not. Now here, for checking the mail, I run the command mail and on this user 3 account, and what it shows here that there is one mail there from user 1. Now remember, user 1 has not sent the mail, it is the attacker sent the mail. Now attacker can send any mail. Remember, attacker can send any mail, and this user 3 will feel like it is sent from the user 1, but actually it is sent from user the attacker. And what the mail, we can check the content of that mail. We put the number of the mail and we can check the content. This mail is from the telnet client for testing. This is the mail which we have sent it. We have not authenticated, we have not given any password for user 1 or user 3, still we can send the mail. Now this is happens which we are when your server is not secure or not properly configured. So this is normally we can use this SMTP, we can use the SMTP to get the information about users. If suppose the users are not right, then if I tried a mail from command or receive to command, it will say that error, that this user is not there, unknown user. So if you give the right user, it will say okay. Then we have other SMTP enumeration tools. These are graphical tools which we can use to enumerate the SMTP protocol. We can get the information graphically. We can install these tools on Windows machine. So this is a graphical tool, SoftPerfect network scanner. We can use a range of IP addresses to scan. Again, it is a scanner. So I will give the range from 220 to 22. And it is scanning, and it did find only 222 server. There is only one it has find. It is still scanning and ready. It is done. So it has find one server there which is having. So that was also tool which we can use to scan. This is also tools for SMTP enumeration. This is basically the testing tools for the SMTP protocol, but attacker can use this tool to enumerate the SMTP to get information about users. Then next we can use this DNS zone transfer. We can enumerate the DNS also. Now by using the DNS enumeration, what we are trying to find out is the available IP addresses and names of the available hosts in the network. We'll try to find out the hosts available in the network and their names. What are the names of those IP addresses? Now we can do this by NS lookup. We can do this by other options also. We can do this by scanning using Nmap and SNMP, other tools also. We can also use the DNS enumeration, and with the DNS enumeration we can use zone transfer. We can try to transfer the zone from the DNS server. So it is a process of locating the DNS server and the records of the target network. So enumerating the DNS is the process of locating the records and targets of target network. An attacker can gather valuable network information such as DNS server names, host names, machine names, user names, IP addresses of the potential targets, etc. So in a DNS zone transfer enumeration, an attacker tries to retrieve a copy of the entire zone file for a domain from the DNS server. Now when we have a DNS server, so what we have different zones. We have two zones actually, forward lookup zone, reverse lookup zone, and in each lookup zones we have zones for each domain. So if you have one domain, you will have one zone for it. If you have multiple domains, then you have multiple zone for it. Now what happen in Windows environment or any other domain environment, if you are having lots of machines, then one DNS server is not enough to handle all those queries. So what we do for load balancing or fault tolerance, administrators use 2-3 DNS servers or more than one DNS servers. Now when you use more than one DNS servers, then what happen, all those DNS server must be updated. If suppose you have added one record in one DNS server, then that record must be updated in all the other DNS server, so that other DNS servers can also be resolve that query or that name or that IP. Now for that reason, all the DNS servers which we create in a domain, we use the zone transfer option for transferring the zone from one DNS server to other DNS server. By default it is disabled, but when you create multiple DNS server, then you have to enable the zone transfer option. Now zone transfer option do what? It will transfer the zone from one DNS server to other DNS server, and transfer the zone means it will transfer the whole information about the domain. That means all the information what it has in the domain and in the DNS server about the domain, like name and IP of the machines, name of the servers, services of the server, like which server has what services available. So all of these, what are the mail server, what are the name server, it will have all the information, and it has in the zone. Now when it transfer the zone, it transfer the whole information from one DNS server to other DNS server. Now attacker can do what? Attacker can use that zone transfer to transfer the zone from the DNS server to its local machine and try to get the zone from the server. It can do this by using the nslookup command. So first, your DNS server must be enabled with the zone transfer. Now this is our DNS server, this is our domain server, and it is also a DNS server. Now when you are having a DNS server, so when you go to this DNS console, now you have forward lookup zone, reverse lookup zone, and in every lookup zone you have this zone for the domain, and it has all the records about the name and IP of the machines available, and also the services record like TCP services, UDP services. All these records are there in this domain. Now when you are having multiple DNS servers, then you have to enable the zone transfer. So for enabling the zone transfer, you go to properties of the zone, and you have option here to enable the zone transfer. Allow zone transfer. Now allow the zone transfer will do what? It will allow the transfer of zone from one server to other server. Now what happens when we have multiple DNS servers? So one DNS server will talk to other DNS server. It says that what is the information about your DNS server. They basically talk about the serial number. They talk about this serial number. Right now this server serial number is 77. Now if we have any changes here in this server, then this number will increase to 78. Now if you have two DNS servers, one is 77 and one is 78, then one which is having 77, it will say that you are having the right information, new information, now you transfer the information to me. So actually DNS servers ask for the information. Now this DNS server will send the information to that server, and it will do what? It will do the zone transfer for that. So for doing that, we have to enable the zone transfer. Now when we enable the zone transfer, then anybody and any attacker can also transfer the zone. Attacker can also ask this DNS server that I need your zone, and it can send the zone to that attacker also. Attacker will go to its own machine, and it will run the nslookup. It will do the nslookup query. So what attacker do? Attacker will run this nslookup query, and it will connect the server. It will select the server which is want to get the information, and then it will set the type to any type I want. and then it will run this command ls-d with the domain name, and it will do what? It will transfer the whole zone from the DNS server to this attacker's machine. So first it says ns lookup. It will connect to its own local DNS server. Then it will set the server which it wants to get the information. Actually, it is the same server I want. Then it will set the type to any type we have. I want all the types. Then what it will do? It will run ls-d command with the domain name. The domain name is what? tech.com. This is the zone name, and you can see it puts the whole record from here. Now remember, this machine is not the part of the domain, and still it can get the information from the DNS server. Now it is very small information, but it could be a very big information. So what attacker will do? It will transfer this information to the file, so it can do it can check the file later. Like I will say dns.txt. So all the informations will be transferred into that text file. Now it will exit from ns lookup, and then it will open that file dns.txt, and then it can see those records what it wants. It can see that the domain name, what is the startup authority, what are the A records, what are the NS records, all the services records also there. It is actually the whole zone which is transferred. So with the zone transfer and with the DNS enumeration, it will find the exact names and IP of that server, of the machines in the network. It can also find the services, which machines are having the services running, which services are running. Then we have some other enumeration technique. Now first, like IPsec enumeration. IPsec is the security protocol. This IPsec uses ESP, encapsulation security payload, and AH, this authentication header, and IKE, internet key exchange, to secure communication between virtual private network VPN endpoints. And most IPsec based VPNs use internet security association and key management protocol, that is ISA-KMP, a part of IKE. So it to establish, negotiate, modify and delete security associations and cryptographic keys in a VPN environment. So a simple scan for this ISA-KP at UDP port 500 can indicate that presence of a VPN gateway. So if suppose there is a VPN gateway, then you will see the port number 500 is open of UDP. Then attacker can probe further using the tools such as IKE scan to enumerate the sensitive information, including the encryption and hashing algorithm, authentication type, key distribution algorithm, assay life duration, etc. So it can do this by using this IKE scan. Now for that, first it has to be make sure that the VPN is configured and available there on that server or not. For that it will do what? It will scan the using nmap. It will scan it by using the nmap command, and it will try to find out the UDP port 500 on that particular server. I'm using directly, but we can do it for all the servers, and when we see the UDP port 500, that means there is a VPN gateway available there. And we can see there is a gateway available there. It is there in that server. ISA-KMP is there on UDP port number 500. Now if it is there, then we can use the other scanning tools to scan the information. We can use this, and with this we can use this is the tool to scan the IPsec protocol for the VPN. These are the commands, these are the options which we can use. There are lots of options we have. This M option will do split the payload decode across multiple lines. With this option, the decode for each payload is printed on a separate line. Starting with the tab, this option makes the output easier to read. So this will make it easier to read. So I'm going to give this option. So very simple, I will do what? I will give -M and then I will use try to scan this one. And you can do this by using the sudo command because you have to be root for this. So what it says here, it has tried the notify 14 messages, no proposal chosen. This is the key, message ID, ending key, scan, and here it is ending. So what it get here, it is get this information, SDR key and message ID. This is for IPsec. Then we have VoIP, new technology, VoIP, voice over IP. So if you're having voice over IP server there, this is to do the voice network or audio and video connections for calls in IP network. This VoIP uses SIP, session initial protocols, to enable voice and video calls over an IP network. This service, SIP service, generally uses the UDP TCP port 2000, 2001 and 5050 and 5050 and 5061. So VoIP enumeration provides sensitive information such as VIP gateway servers, IP PBX systems, client software, soft phones, VIP phones, user agent, IP addresses and user extensions. This information can be used to launch various VoIP attacks such as denial of service attack, session hijacking, caller ID spoofing, eavesdropping, spamming over internet telephony, VoIP phishing, that is called vishing, etc. We can use this SVMP to SVMap tool to enumerate the VoIP server. Now if you are having a VoIP server available, then you can do this. Then we can go to further. We can go further by using these payloads. This is MSF exploit. This we will discuss later in detail. In this we have lots of different payloads and exploits for different kind of things. And we have these payload for SIP also, which we can use to do, and we can enumerate the things with this. But we can use this if we are having the SIP server, VoIP server there. Now I have this server. This is VoIP server I have. It is saying welcome to Tribox. So it is Tribox CE small VoIP server, and this is the IP for this server 192.168.0.150. So we can try to see we can enumerate this or not. We can use that svmap command. So from here, from the Kali machine, I will use this svmap command. 192.168.0.140 is the IP address of that PBX server. So it is showing the information about that server, that this is the server, this is the version, this is the fingerprint. Fingerprint is disabled for that server. Now we know that there is a PBX server there, then we can go on to enumerate on that. We can do other tools, we can use payloads to use it for the different reasons like hijacking. We can use different payloads to do these denial of service and session hijacking attacks. We can use caller ID spoofing, that means we'll get the caller IDs from there, and then we can use those caller IDs to spoof with the other users. We can use spamming, eavesdropping attack, we can use it to do this over VoIP. Then other Linux attacks we have, like Unix attacks. Like if you're enumerating the Unix machines, then you can use these commands from the machine like ruser remote user to get the information about the other users, like display the list of users who are logged on to a remote machine or machine on local network. Then we can use our who to get the information about the users, get the information about the list of users who are logged into the host of the local network. Then we can use finger command will display the user's total information. You just use the finger at the machine name. So if the finger is there, then it will show you the detailed information about the users. What are the user name, what is the uh, home directory, what is the login ID, whatever, email or anything else. This is the simple for the Linux. These are the Linux tools. Now vulnerability scanning. So vulnerability scanning means scanning identities, vulnerabilities and weakness of the system and network in order to determine how a system can be exploited. Now we have network topology and OS vulnerability, open ports and running services, application and service configuration errors, applications and services vulnerabilities. Now till now, like in enumeration and scanning part and also reconnaissance part, we get those informations about the OS, about the services from the system. Now we can try to get the vulnerabilities of those systems and services. Like if it is the OS, if it is if it is Windows 7, or if it is Windows Server 8, it is Windows 7 or Windows Server 2012, then we can go on to find out the vulnerabilities available on those servers, so that we can use those vulnerabilities to craft our attack. Open ports and running services are also the vulnerability. We can check the applications versions, like if it is Microsoft IIS server, so Microsoft IIS version 10, that means what are the vulnerabilities of those Microsoft IIS version 10. So by knowing those information, we can find out the vulnerabilities of those systems. For that, we can go to the online sources. We can go to the online sources available to find out the vulnerabilities, or we can use these tools. Nessus is the tool, is a graphical tool which will use to find the vulnerabilities and configurations assessment product. It's a configuration and vulnerability assessment product for administrators, but attacker can also use this to find the vulnerabilities. It is features is to agentless auditing, compliance check, content audit, customized reporting, high speed vulnerability discovery, in-depth assessment, mobile device audit, patch management, integration, scan policy design and execution. This is complete tool to find out the vulnerabilities. It will show you the blogs and logs, or blogs also. When you see the vulnerability, it will show you the vulnerabilities, blogs and detailed information about it. But as a most graphical tools, it is also not free. Then we have GFI LandGuard also. This will also find out the vulnerability. It is assist inventory, change management, risk analysis and proving compliance. Features are for selective creates custom vulnerability check, identifies the security vulnerabilities and takes remedial action immediately, creates different types of scans and vulnerability tests, help ensure third-party security application offer optimum protection, perform network device and vulnerability checks. These softwares are for the administrator to check the vulnerability on its own system, so that they can secure their systems. Then we have Qualys Free Scan. Now this one is the online service where we can go to the site and we can create a free account, and then we can scan our network freely. For example, so this is the site where you can create the account, and I think I have created the account. Let me try that. Okay, so I have logged in here in this, and then you can do what? You can scan. Step for the successful scan. You can scan your network for vulnerabilities. Add an IP address to scan here. You will add your IP addresses, general information, host IP addresses. You can add these, and then you can go for the scan, and it will scan your network and find out the vulnerabilities, and it will do it for your local network. Now for doing this, you need to connect to the internet. I am not connected to internet. Then there is a tool called Nikto. which we have available on Linux Kali machine, which can do assessment for web servers. It will do for web servers. Let's do it. We have a Kali machine, so you can use Nikto also. This is for only web servers, and you'll give the website name here, and then it will give you what are the vulnerabilities there. It will scan the whole site and it will show you what are the vulnerabilities available there. So if it is there any vulnerability, then it will show you here. Then we have other vulnerability assessment tools also. Now for enumeration countermeasure, how to do the countermeasure. Now first SNMP, remove the SNMP agent or turn off the SNMP service. First it is saying that don't use SNMP, but if we want to use, if shutting off SNMP is not option, then change the default public community to community's name and change it to complex, which should not be easily crack. Then possibly do that upgrade to SNMP version 3. As I said, SNMP version 3, which is encrypted password and messages. So use SNMP version 3, don't use SNMP version 1. Then implement the group policy security option that called additional restriction for anonymous connections. So this policy in Active Directory domain will do what? It will disallow the anonymous connections. So use this policy. Access to full null session pipes, null session shares and IPsec filtering should be restricted. Then for DNS, simply disable the zone transfer to the untrusted host. Very simple. If you are having a zone transfer, if you want to do the zone transfer, then do it with the only trusted servers. Make sure that the private host and IP addresses are not published into DNS zone files and public DNS servers. Use premium DNS registration service that hide sensitive information such as hinfo from public. Then use the standard network admin contact for DNS registration in order to avoid the social engineering attack. So this will you find from the responsible person name. So whenever you do transfer the zone, you have to do what? You have to restrict it. That means when I enable it, it was default to any server. So make sure it goes to only specific server. Add those servers here or go for name servers tab. Servers that is present here. Only to those servers. Don't give it to any server. Then for SMTP servers to ignore email messages to unknown recipient. Don't include sensitive mail server and localhost information in mail response. Disable open relay feature. That is what we use to send the mail. Then for LDAP, use NTLM or basic authentication to limit access to known users only. By default, LDAP traffic is transmitted unsecured. So use SSL technology to encrypt the traffic also. Then select the username different from your email address and enable account lockout, so that anyone will not able to guess the email address. From the email address, it cannot guess the username. Then for SMB, disable the SMB. Disable the SMB, that means go to Ethernet properties and select the client for Microsoft Network and Sharing Printer and disable this network sharing. So you can go to the properties of the Ethernet and just disable these two ticks. Remove these ticks, disable it. Now when you disable it, you will when you select uninstall it, that means what? You're uninstalling you're removing the sharing part. That means your machine will not able to share any data. Now you will do it for the sensitive servers, which is you don't want to do the SMB enumeration. So you want to secure the servers, so you will remove this. Then for the penetration testing. So using this to identify valid user account or poorly protected resources shares using active connection to system and direct queries. Then the information can be users and groups, network resources and share and application, and used in combination with the data collected in the reconnaissance parse. phase. So when you get the whatever the data we get it from the reconnaissance phase, you use those information to do the penetration testing with this enumeration. Try to find out these informations. So this is this we will do from the proper steps. Find the network range, collect the subnet mask, undergo the host discovery, then perform the port scanning, then perform the DNS enumeration, NetBIOS, SNMP, and then Linux enumeration. Then use LDAP, NTP, and SMTP enumeration. Then whatever you find, document everything and give it to the authorized person. So this is the enumeration we have.